Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sam Farber. I'm the radio play-by-play broadcaster here for the Charlotte Hornets, and it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you as we officially welcome the new head coach of the Charlotte Hornets, Charles Lee, here to the Queen City. Typically, we would host an event like this at home at Spectrum Center, but as most of you know, it is being reimagined right now. So we want to give a special thank you to our friends here at Lowe's Home Improvement for hosting us at the Tech Hub Auditorium, a beautiful space for a wonderful event. Whether you're with us here in person or tuned in live on Valley Sports Southeast, 92.7 Sports Radio, WFNZ, NBA TV, or on Hornets.com, we welcome you and thank you for joining us here today. This day has been a long time coming. Coach Lee has been one of the most successful assistant coaches in the NBA for a decade and has been a leading candidate for several head coaching jobs, and we are thrilled that he's accepted the one here with the Charlotte Hornets. It's also a long time coming because even though this announcement was made several weeks ago, he had some work to attend to with his previous job, winning his second NBA championship as a member of the staff for the Boston Celtics, and we know that's going to pair well with one he earns here in the future here in Charlotte. In addition to Coach, we want to welcome his family who is here with us today, his wife Lindsay, their children Corinne, Vivian, and Josephine, as well as his parents Jennifer and Charles Sr., and his mother-in-law Jill. In addition to being an incredible place for basketball, this is a wonderful place for families, so welcome home to all of you. Joining Coach Lee on stage, we have Hornets Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, Jeff Peterson, and he will tip things off with his opening statement.
Great. Thank you, Sam. It's a special day today. Just want to tell you guys how excited I am to have Charles and, of course, his wife, Lindsay, Corinne, Vivian, and Josephine here with our Charlotte Hornets family. You know, when Cliff informed me that he would not be returning this upcoming season, I thought it was important to cast a wide net and talk to as many individuals as possible for a different amount of background and experiences. You know, and through that process, Charles did a tremendous job, and he stood out for a variety of reasons, and it became very evident that he was the right person to lead us going forward. You know, at the beginning of the process, I took the time to identify some key traits and variables that I thought the head coach should embody for the Charlotte Hornets. And Charles did a tremendous job in terms of embracing every one of those qualities and traits. And again, it just became very evident that he was the right person to lead us going forward. Charles is a man of integrity. He does a great job of communicating. He's very, very passionate about his craft, player development. He's very authentic. He's been through an amazing amount of experiences. As Sam just touched on, maybe most importantly, he's a winner, two-time champ. So all of those characteristics were huge in terms of my evaluation, our evaluation, and wanting to bring him to the Charlotte Hornets. So again, I can't tell you how excited I am for you guys to see what I saw in Charles throughout the process. He's an amazing person, and he's a pretty good coach as well. But he's a very, very good person, a very good friend. So excited to have he and his family here.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate those kind words. Hopefully I can live up to that billing that you were so kind to say. Appreciate everybody being here today. Would love to kick it off with just a couple thank yous. As I'm overwhelmed with emotion right now, I ask that you maybe bear with me because I have a feeling that I'm going to get a little emotional. But first want to thank Gabe, Rick, and Jeff for believing in me. I think Sam touched on it before. I've been the leading candidate, been a finalist in some other jobs, and was finally able to get this one over the finish line. And I'm just extremely thankful that you guys believe in me, that we can be aligned in a lot of our views. A lot of people always told me the right one will happen at the right time. And I fully believe that this is the right job at the right time for me, for my family, and for this organization. I have very high aspirations for what we can continue to build here, and I'm looking forward to building sustained success with the three of you, ultimately. Next, I want to thank my wife, Lindsay. I think that I am proof that behind every great man, there's an even better woman behind him. And she is that person. When I told her in 2012 that I wanted to get into coaching and leave Wall Street, she looked at me like I was a little crazy. But very quickly, she supported me and also sacrificed her career to be able to allow me to follow my dream. And I just can't thank you enough for that. And this journey probably couldn't have started without you. And not only do I have her behind me, but I have these three wonderful young ladies that are always in my corner. And after a tough game, a tough practice, or a great game, or a great practice, whatever the case may be, when you get to come home to three amazing young ladies, it warms my heart. And so I'm really glad that you guys are here today, and I appreciate your understanding of Dad always being out and about and trying to work. But I'm always thinking about you, and I love you, and I love those little gifts you put in my suitcases when I'm on the road. Also want to thank my mom and dad. I think that I've had an unbelievable upbringing, and the person that Jeff was so kind to talk about is because of them. And so the role models that they were my whole life, I'm extremely thankful and grateful, and I'm so glad that you could be here today. I also just want to shout out my brother, who's a little finance busy today. I know that he would have loved to be here, but shout out to Jeremy Lee for all of his continued support as well. So without a strong family, there's no good coach or good human being. And my mother-in-law, Jill's here with us today, too. Everything that you do for me and the family along the way, it's greatly appreciated. The next one has to go to, I want to kind of like touch on the organizations that I've had the opportunity to work with. And so Coach Bud called me in 2014 and started me on this NBA journey and asked me if I would be interested in coming to interview for a job on his staff. And because of him, I'm here now. And so the last decade was started because of Coach Bud, and I got to grow with him. I want to thank the Atlanta Hawks organization, all the players that I got to coach in Atlanta, but also the players that helped me continue to grow as a coach. I think that we always learn from like the best players, or just the players in general are always giving you feedback on how you can continue to grow and get better. Next, I want to thank the Milwaukee Bucks, a team I obviously got to win a championship with and see what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. But that organization was also great to me. The players with the Bucks, lifelong friends there as well. And then lastly, in a year of transition, I want to thank Joe Mazzulla, Brad Stevens in the Boston Celtics organization. You get to see something different outside of the Coach Bud tree, but you get to work for a historic winning culture, and that was big for me. And it's hopefully something that I can continue to learn and grow from and bring some of those experiences here to Charlotte as we continue to build.
Excellent. Thank you both. For the media here today, if you want to raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you and let you ask some questions to our new head coach. Go with Scott in the front here. Sam Perley.
Hello. Charles, Sam Perley with Hornets.com. Congratulations and welcome to Charlotte. Just kind of a little bit of a two-partish question. I know this has been a long path that you alluded to in kind of your opening statement. I know, and again, it's been a whirlwind of, I'm sure, a week transitioning here. Have you been able to reflect upon your 10 years as an assistant, as an assistant, and kind of all the times maybe you were told no, and just how it all feels worthwhile then? And then as a follow-up to Jeff, just having to, after announcing Charles as a head coach, then waiting 7 weeks, your excitement to kind of finally get him here. I know it was a little bit of a delayed situation, but to kind of really get going now, how excited are you?
Go ahead.
Sounds good. First and foremost, I would say that my time as an assistant coach helped me grow with a lot of different experiences. And Jeff touched upon all the success I've been able to be a part of. And so the biggest thing that I've learned as an assistant coach is the importance of relationships, the importance of consistency and daily improvement, and then also togetherness. And part of that togetherness is having a group of guys that I think want to go to battle with each other every night. And the preparation that we're going to put in with each other is so important. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but how are we going to just come together and help uplift each other? And part of what excites me about this opportunity is those guys that are sitting over there. And I appreciate them being here today, and this is part of the togetherness that a lot of us have talked about as we've had conversations, and they're here to support me today. And I can remember going through some of the Celtics playoff run, calling them, texting them. They're texting me messages of encouragement, congratulations. And all I could feel was I was letting them down because the hiring had happened so long ago. And I'm leaving them hanging. And they were like, nah, coach, you got to go do what you got to do. And we can't wait till you get here after you win it. And so, like, that togetherness has already kind of started. And I think that's one of the key ingredients of what we need going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it. It's a unique time, right? We had those 7 weeks, that little gap. But again, it's not like he wasn't doing anything during that time. He was gaining more experience and ultimately reached his ultimate goal of winning a championship. I put him to work a little bit, though, in between times. I would have him work on some projects and get his thoughts with certain things. And he's been amazing just in terms of the time commitment, because that's not easy, right? He's balancing going to win a championship, but at the same time, he's focused on these guys as well, and that's the priority. So, but yes, I am excited to have him finally here in Charlotte.
Rod Boone, Charlotte Observer. Charles, just wondering, your time in Milwaukee, you won the championship there, and also in Boston, a championship with the Celtics. How did that time with those two organizations help you, prepare you for where you're at right now?
It helped show me what is important to winning and to winning at the highest level. And I would say at both of those stops, we've also won consistently. And it takes a lot of work. I think it takes a lot of work from the player standpoint, from the coach's standpoint, even from the front office. How are you structuring a team and making sure that all the pieces fit properly? And that's what I know that we're going to have here. Jeff and his team, they work so hard. The last couple of days, even as I've been here, I'm like, yo, bro, you okay? Like, can I help you? Can I get something off of your plate? Do you just need to talk? So their group is so diligent with everything they do. He's such a hard worker. I think he's got a great eye for talent. And so, like, from a front office standpoint, we're in a really good place, and it's really exciting. And I think that from the player standpoint, these guys want to work. All they've said is, hey, coach, what do you need from me? I got a text from a couple guys, hey, I'm going to work out today. What would you like me to work on? And that's exciting. Like, when you have self-motivated and driven guys, that's what I've seen at two of the championship caliber organizations that I've been a part of, is that all the players, from your two-way players to your best player, they all just want to work. And I think that I've been able so far to put together a coaching staff that has to be able to help in that process too. Identifying the right skill sets, the right leadership qualities that we're going to need from our players, scouting-wise, and also just keeping me on track. You know what I mean? Making sure I'm not going off of the rails along our journey.
And then, Jeff, just for you, just wondering, you mentioned the qualities, obviously, of Charles, hiring him. Just what made him the right guy for this job right now in your mind?
Yeah, I think, again, prior to the search beginning, I took some time to really identify those key traits and characteristics that I thought would make a successful head coach. So I did that at an objective time. And, you know, when the process actually started and I got to talk to various candidates, Charles just, again, he blew me away. And he really stood out for a variety of reasons. So, again, his just the level of integrity that he has as a man. Like I said earlier, he's an excellent communicator, which is very important for us to have that partnership and relationship. He's competitive. He's constantly trying to figure out ways to get better. Like, I know at night he's going to sleep, how can I make the Charlotte Hornets better? And like I said earlier, he's a winner. So not everyone can say that they've won 2 championships in the NBA, and that says a lot.
Michael Sett, Charlotte Sports Live, Queen City News. Obviously, just to touch on what he just said, I know you're thinking about this a lot. How challenging was it for you to kind of balance the 2 jobs while you're still with the Celtics, and then at the same time know that you've got a whole other plate of things to think about?
No, it was. I told somebody it was exciting. Like, I didn't feel overwhelmed by any stretch of the imagination because I finally get to do those things. Like, you get to be a part of a championship caliber team and you're on a deep playoff run. And then I also get to be the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets. Like, just even saying that gives me chills a little bit. Like, knowing the fans and the feeling of the Carolinas and how excited they are about basketball, I would say about sports in general. So knowing that as we get this thing really moving, trying to get the Carolinas back to support us and just getting it at a really high level because I know it's there. And I'm excited to be a part of the leadership group that's going to help us get to a point that every night it's going to be fun to come watch Charlotte Hornets basketball.
Charles, Nick Carboni from NBC here in Charlotte. Welcome. Wondering, when you talk about leaving that Wall Street job, what was pulling at you to come back to basketball?
My love for the game. And that's, one thing that when people ask me about, hey, you didn't get it over the finish line a couple times for a head coaching job. For me, when I left Wall Street, it was because of the love of the game, and it was because I wanted to just help players be as good as they possibly can be, and I wanted to compete with the team to try to win at the highest level. And so, yeah, you're not a head coach, but you still have an opportunity as an assistant coach to still be around the game. You get to help a team try to compete for a championship, and I get to try to help players continue to be as good as they possibly can be on and off the court. So the main thing stays the main thing. And so leaving Wall Street, that's what I wanted, and that's what I get, is to just be back with my passion.
Charles, Steve Reed from the Associated Press. Welcome to Charlotte, first of all. You've been to the mountaintop, I guess, the NBA mountaintop twice, and most recently a few weeks ago. You come to a team that has struggled to get to the postseason. How far away is this team? What does this team need to do to get to that ultimate level?
I think we have a very, very good team. We've been snake bitten, I think, with some injuries. But I'm looking forward to this talent-rich group doing everything they can to be healthy, and some of that's going to obviously be on us as coaches and performance staff. But this group is focused on the right things, and so the only expectations that we're going to put in front of ourselves are that we're going to compete every night on a night-to-night basis, no matter road game, home game, who's playing. There's going to be a competitive group on the floor. And not only that, it's going to be a group that's together on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively. We're going to just play the right way and do what's necessary so our teammate understands I have your back in all situations. And then lastly, win or lose, we have an opportunity to learn, grow, and get better. And getting better every day is going to be our main focus. So I'm really excited about this group because they embody a lot of those qualities. And now we just need to be able to sustain it and do it for longer periods of time.
Coach, in terms of your previous experience with Coach Bud and obviously most recently with Coach Mazzulla, you watch those teams, very distinct, different styles, the way that they play. Is there something from Coach Bud that you want to incorporate into your philosophy? And then also, like Coach Mazzulla, is there something that stood out this past season, like, hey, I need to incorporate this with my team offensively or defensively?
Yeah, both coaches, phenomenal coaches. And I would say even the assistant coaches that they've had have been really good for me to learn from as well. And so the biggest thing that I want to be able to take from both of them is they created a culture of work. And we just knew every day, no matter what the situation was, we were coming into work. And we created an environment where it was fun for the players to come. And they understood that there was going to be a preparation from the coaches. And we were in the fight with them on a day-to-day basis. So that's what I want to bring here. And I know that these guys will buy into that fully.
Coach, Daryl Horowitz, Queen City Nerve. You just came from championship team, obviously, with Boston. They had a smothering defense there. That's probably their signature. And you're coming to Charlotte, and defense has always been an issue. And with being with a new organization for that 1 year and winning the title, what do you feel you've learned from them about what they do with the players, the training camp practices, things along those lines that could make this Charlotte team a perennial playoff team and hopefully a contender, too, in the future?
Yeah, Boston defense was very good, and there's a lot of things that you can take from it, but I think that our personnel is a little bit different. And so we're going to find a way to have our own identity defensively that'll be different than Boston's. But the three things that we're going to continuously come back to are our effort, our communication, and our open-mindedness to just doing a bunch of different things defensively. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to change coverages all the time, but it's, hey, I want you to guard this guy one possession. Coming out of a side out of bounds, let's change it up a little bit because they just drew up an ATO to try to attack one of our players. So just being open-minded to the different strategies, the different matchups that we may have. And no matter what scheme we're in, if we don't have effort and we don't have communication in it, probably not going to be that good.
Jeremy Granison, ESPN Charlotte. Question for Charles. Jeff mentioned how you fit the characteristic and traits of what he wanted in a head coach. As you build your coaching staff, what traits are you looking for in whoever you want to assemble?
Yeah, I want culture enhancers is what I call them. I want guys that can understand the vision that Jeff and I have kind of put forward and what's important to us. And I want these guys to be able to have those same characteristics and then be able to just enhance the environment. One of the things I talked about earlier about just creating an environment for our players to have fun in, want to come to work every day. And so I think energy, positivity, guys that are going to actually coach and teach the game, which we've seen in some of these individual workouts where a coach not going to be afraid to stop a workout and say, hey, think about your footwork being this, or, you need to go at this pace to be able to actually get a feel for what game speed feels like. That's what I want out there every day, just energy. And also just some creativity, guys that want to be able to push me and hold me accountable while also holding the players accountable too.
Hey, Charles, Skylar Connell with Sports Illustrated. And I guess this question could really be for both of you guys. Basketball and other sports are kind of changing in terms of how decisions are made. Analytics are becoming a big part of it. How much will analytics play into not only on the court situations, but in terms of formulating the roster?
I'll go first. I think the analytics, they are definitely going to be a part of our decision-making process as we think about our team and as we think about a scouting report. But I'm going to say from my side, it's not going to ultimately be the last determining factor. I think that there's an eye test that we have to go through. We have to figure out, does it make sense for our team at this point of the season? Does it make sense for the growth of this guy? So there's so many other factors I think that have to go in the decision-making process. But there is a piece of analytics that we'll consider.
I don't have much to add than that. I think context is very important, right? When you get down to some of these decisions that you have to be made, it's not black and white, it's not linear. So you have to be open-minded to, use that information as a piece to the puzzle, but it's not the end-all be-all.
Coach Hunter Bailey with the Highway 49 podcast. I want to ask you about one of your players on the team now, Mark Williams. You spent a lot of time with Brooke Lopez in Milwaukee, kind of that 7-foot rim protector who could also step outside. When you think about Mark's game, where does that development lead in your mind, and what kind of player do you want to see him become here moving forward?
Yeah, just like all the players that I'm really excited about, your question being about Mark, I am really hopeful for him, first and foremost, that we can get him to a place where he's healthy, can play more games, can get some more reps, and we can really see him be the Mark Williams that I know when I was in Boston, he destroyed us. When we played here in Charlotte. And that's the type of dominating force that we just want on both ends of the court. Hopefully defensively we can unleash him a little bit more to be that rim protector that you just talked about, coming over, blocking shots, going vertical, changing other teams' ability to just finish in the paint and then rebound at a high level. And as you kind of pointed out, a comparison to Brooke Lopez, sometimes that commanding the paint isn't always coming up with 10 rebounds, but it's also making sure the other team doesn't get the rebound. And then offensively, I think that he has a great ability to be able to do a lot of different things in terms of being a pick-and-roll screener with as much pace that we want to play with. Hopefully we're playing with pace off of misses and less off of makes, because obviously it'll make us a little bit more dangerous and a lot faster. But I think that him as a pick-and-roll screener and just that ability to kind of finish in the paint too is going to be a trademark of his. So dominating the paint is going to be his middle name.
Hey, Coach. John Treach, WCCB Charlotte. 2 championships, but 3 daughters. How does being a prolific girl dad influence you now as a head coach?
Why isn't that 5 championships then? Because, having 3 daughters has been absolutely amazing.
How does being a dad impact you?
No, being a dad has, for one thing, it's helped me with my patience. You have to have a lot of that, and I love that Vivian's the one that's laughing because she's the one that I have to have the most patience with. But it carries over to coaching. Like sometimes, especially we have a very young team, so there's going to be some things where I'm like, man, why couldn't we get that on the first try? But I have to remember that, they're young and they need some more reps, and you have to go about a different way of explaining it to them because they might not understand it the way that you're trying to explain it. But also just having this pure joy that they have when I get home is kind of like the same joy you get around being with the young guys. LaMelo and I today were joking about music. And so, like, I listen to different music than he listens to. But we can still find a bond and actually just enjoy music. So I think that just having kids just keeps me youthful and fun and having a lot more patience.
Charles, Richard Walker with the Carolina Sports Hub. Really for both of you guys, warp speed, draft is tomorrow. How do you assess the team's needs moving forward? And do you see, obviously you're slated to add 2 players. Do you see yourself being active in the free agent market after you add those 2 players to the draft?
Yeah, I feel great about the draft preparation so far because, like I said, Jeff and his team have been grinding in that area. And I think every now and then he'll ask us to watch some film or impart some wisdom of what we think of some players. But I don't want that to ultimately hold too much weight because they have done so much work over the last few months and years. And, you know, there's just an ultimate level of trust with Jeff and his group. And he understands our team. I think he got to get here a little bit earlier than I did, so he's had time to evaluate where maybe some of the needs are. And he's going to do a phenomenal job.
Yeah, super excited about the draft and free agency for that matter. And I think at the right time we'll get into that. But today I want to keep it about Charles and this opportunity that he has. So.
Thanks.
Jeff, in talking about Charles, I'm just curious, was there a moment, something that happened where you and, Rick and Gabe, that something went off in your head that said, this is the guy? I mean, was there something that somebody said to you? Was there something in the interview that just all of a sudden you're like, you went home that night and said, this is the guy?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, look, over time, after talking to that, again, it was a talented group, some of the other candidates. And, I got to the point and I told Gabe and Rick, like, I'm sitting here trying to figure out why we shouldn't hire him, and I felt pretty good about that in terms of just checking my work and figuring out again why we wouldn't go that route. So I think just being able to be privileged in terms of talking to members of the Celtics organization, members of the Milwaukee Bucks organization, and of course my experience with him in Atlanta just kind of crystallized everything. And like I said, very confident that he's the right person and coach to lead us going forward.
Jeff, when you came in, you wanted to make this a top franchise in the NBA. Talked about making this one of, the premier franchises and everything like that. How do you see, how's it gone so far in your mind? How do you make sure you keep going towards your vision? And then for Charles also, how do you make sure the Hornets are perceived differently than maybe they were when you were around different franchises?
Yeah, I think, again, just throughout the process, Rick and Gabe and I, we've talked a ton about it's all about the people. It's all about the human beings. You want to have really, really good people, and from there, good things typically happen. So I'm very process-oriented. I try not to worry about the results. I try to control what I control on a daily basis. So adding Charles, again, it was just another step in the vision, and that's why I'm so excited to be up here today with him.
Scott, close it out.
Charles, Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer. Welcome. This is a team that hasn't made the postseason since 2016, so their fans have gone through a long dry spell here. If you were if I could ask you to just address those fans directly, what would you tell them they're going to see, and what can you promise them?
What I would say to the fans right now is that as I went through this interview process, Gabe, Rick, and Jeff made it clear to me that they wanted this to be one of the premier NBA franchises in the NBA. And they explained to me how passionate of a fan base the Carolinas can be. And as soon as I heard those two things, I was all in. And me being all in, my coaching staff being all in, the things that we can promise from this team is that they're going to be very competitive, they're going to be very together, and we're going to be focused on what we can control, which is our daily progress, process, and effort. And so that is what I can promise you.
Awesome. And that's going to do it for the Q&A for now. We're going to move the table away and have a quick photo op here. Got it? Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks to our staff, our players, all the media. It's a busy week, drafts tomorrow, so we'll be doing much more of this, but thank you all for being here.